Hello, my name's Sarah, and I'm a therapist here at Sage Therapy Chicago. Today I'm going to be talking with you about ABC Please, which is an acronym to help guide us through taking care of ourselves. So this acronym comes from dialectical behavior therapy. Maybe this is a type of therapy you've heard of before or heard mentioned. Sometimes it's shortened down to DBT. So overall, this is a type of therapy that really focuses on building skills and forming a toolkit for when we are in emotional situations, whether it's regulating our emotions overall, if we're in a very stressful situation, maybe it's focused on incorporating mindfulness or the ways that we interact with other people. But today with ABC Please, this is specifically about building some of those basic blocks of coping skills for ourselves. When we take care of ourselves, we can really take care of others and take care of things going on around us, which is why it's so important that we take that time to really focus on what's going on internally for us. So, with ABC Please, we're going to start off first with the first half, learning our ABCs, a short and sweet acronym around emotional coping strategies. So, the first piece of ABC Please is, of course, A, which stands for accumulating positive experiences. Positive experiences can include any activity that increases happiness and other positive emotions in you while not risking any harm or possible harm. This puts emphasis on adding positive events to our daily life. So, this might seem like a pretty basic thing, but it's helpful to think of it in this perspective. We can't always prevent negative things from happening. Negative events, negative time periods, negative anything, those are normal parts of life and they will pop up from time to time. The way that we can really prepare ourselves for when there's negativity in our lives is by balancing out that positive with the negative. The more that we can be mindful of accumulating positive experiences when possible, that creates a nice balance between the two. So, positive experiences can be something we look at in the short term as well as the long term. So, maybe some examples of short term positive experiences include watching a funny video, talking to a friend, finding ways to move our body, maybe through exercise or through just being with other people in nature, walking. Maybe it's eating a snack that we enjoy, anything that might be small in the long term but makes us feel better in that moment. When we look then at the long term, these are bigger changes we can make and bigger things we can focus on for these positive experiences. Maybe it's making time in our daily routines for prayer or for meditation. Maybe it's volunteering for a cause that you really believe in or that's really important for you. It could possibly be seeking out new job opportunities, finding a better way for us to engage with our professional lives, or it could just boil down to investing time in relationships that are important to us. Moving forward onto the B is building mastery. So, building mastery is this idea of creating skills, creating mastery in specific areas of our lives in order to build up our resiliency and build up our self esteem, feeling proud of ourselves for having these skills, having these abilities. This is about finding activities or skills that you can invest time into to become a master of sorts. It's interesting because when we think of building mastery, sometimes this is something we were actually better at as a kid, and we lost track of while we got older in life. Being a child, there's such a focus on learning new things, trying things that aren't necessarily job oriented or things that we expect to make money off of. It's all about, I like to draw, I like to paint, I like to sing. And this can be a helpful place to start of thinking, what were the things you wanted to be good at as a kid? What were the things that you would say were your interests if someone asked you when you were a kid? With building mastery, it's helpful for us to have a bit of a challenge in our lives. Obviously, not pushing ourselves to any danger zone, but thinking of places where we can be in that healthy growth zone. So, a little bit outside of that safety net that we might be sitting in regularly, but still in an area that feels comfortable. So, when we challenge ourselves healthy with these healthy amounts of challenge, it helps to preserve our helps to preserve our sense of being able to stand up against adversity. It helps to stop the effects of negativity and be able to just face that negativity. So there can be large examples or even small things. So some examples might be doing a puzzle, fixing something that's been broken, or learning how to fix things around us, learning more about playing an instrument or practicing that instrument, maybe trying new recipes and meal ideas, or taking a class in something new. When it comes to the C in ABC, please, it's about coping ahead. So, research shows that in many challenging or even triggering situations, planning ahead of time can prepare us in the moment of stress, prepare us for whatever is to come. We're more likely to go through with an idea if we've kind of rehearsed it, either spoken out loud, imagined that scenario, wrote down what we'd do. Having that mental rehearsal does prepare us for the moment the more that we engage with it. Coping ahead means taking time to plan out one's response as much as possible. This can be especially important when typical responses to a stressor or a negative event are unhealthy or might put ourselves at risk, such as behaviors like consuming substances or making risky decisions. So, coping ahead could possibly look like writing down a list of options in specific scenarios we anticipate. Maybe it's meditating on or journaling about what we might say during a conflict or during an argument that we're anticipating. Maybe it's considering multiple different futures and what it might mean to get to those futures. Or it could also be looking backwards, identifying past patterns in stressful situations and seeing what we can learn from those past patterns. Now that we have the ABCs down, that brings us to please. This is an acronym more focused on tending to our physical needs. Our mental and physical states are deeply tied. When we aren't at our best physically, we're probably not at our best mentally. So it's important that we tend to each of these areas, even if it seems like they're pretty basic. Sometimes it's very easy to lose track, lose focus. So to start off, the PL in please stands for physical illness. This is about really tuning into our bodies when we're not feeling well. This is about also being proactive of taking care of our bodies. That means getting regular health care, seeing our doctors regularly, our dentists, whatever it might be. And this also means responding well, staying home when we're sick. Obviously, in the past couple of years, we've learned more about the importance of staying home when we're sick, but also just being tuned into what is my body saying right now? Does my body feel good to be in this situation? Does it not feel good? When we move on to E, this stands for eat. Another one of those that seems pretty straightforward, like, yeah, of course, Sarah, I'm going to eat every day. But it's really being mindful about what we're eating, how we're eating, our relationship with food. So it's about making sure we're eating regular meals, making sure we're not going long stretches of times without eating even like little bits of food in our day. It's about making sure that we're incorporating nutritious foods, that we're focusing on all the different food groups and getting lots of different nutritious value from it. And it's listening to our bodies when it comes to eating. Eating when we're hungry, when we're feeling that hunger pain, even before we start feeling that painful sensation. Not trying to force ourselves to eat if we're not feeling hungry. Really listening to what is my body saying right now when it comes to food. The A in please stands for avoid mood altering substances. So this can be another thing that might seem pretty straightforward, but it's another one of being mindful about how we consume substances, what our substance use looks like. So this is avoiding substances when we are in distress. Maybe it's looking for other ways of coping that could be alternatives to utilizing substances. So for example, maybe it's thinking about when you have a stressful day at work, is there something else you can do other than pouring yourself a glass of wine or having a smoke? Maybe it's something of another coping activity, looking back at your ABCs as well. So, yeah, really being mindful of the relationship that you have with substances. When we look at S, this of course stands for sleep. As many of you are probably aware, the recommended amount of sleep that an adult should get every night is 7 to 9 hours. Obviously, life can be tricky. It can be really hard to really get that amount of sleep with everything going on. So it's about being really mindful of our sleep schedules, seeing what we can do, what we can alter to make sure we have that ability to get that much sleep. Even beyond physically sleeping and being unconscious, it's also about making time for rest, even if that means just a second to kind of sit and relax in the middle of our day. Incorporating sleep and rest is something that's really integral to our well being. The last element of the PLEASE acronym for E is exercise. So, the American Heart Association recommends at least 2.5 hours of moderate physical activity for adults. So that means making sure we're finding ways to move our bodies regularly, really trying to aim for at least that 2.5 hours, knowing that it leads to a lot of mental and physical benefits. And it can also just make us more resilient in the long run to mental and physical stressors. This can also come up in smaller ways than specific times for exercise. Maybe it's making those small physical changes to our day to day. Maybe it's standing up once an hour at work if you are someone that sits at a desk all day. Maybe it's taking short walks outside during breaks or in between different meetings. And maybe it's also just making sure that we're stretching before bed or early in the morning. Just taking those small chances to get our blood flowing, get engaged with our muscles. Those can make a big difference in the long run. So, coping requires action, as all of these pieces get at, but it's also important that changes are sustainable. One way to implement ABC Please in a way that can have long-term impact is to focus on just one of these areas at a time. Maybe one week you focus on accumulating positive experiences, and then the next week you think about areas where you could build mastery. Maybe you make a schedule for changes you plan to make for your physical health so that they're gradual and not overwhelming on your routine, on your schedule, or just on your mental well-being. So no matter what, it's important that we are proactive in our mental health. The more that we work on ourselves, the more positive outcomes we will see. So, if you're interested in learning more about other emotion regulation skills or other skills that DBT may have to offer, a couple great resources include the website dbt.tools, dbt.tools. This is a great website that covers kind of a brief synopsis of a lot of the different skills in DBT. If you're looking for maybe more of an in-depth read, the Dialectical Behavior Therapy Skills Workbook by McKay, Wood, and Brantley is a great resource to learn a little bit more, dig a little bit deeper, and it walks you through a lot of great exercises to start implementing these elements in your real life. And one of the greatest resources you can utilize is, of course, a counselor. You can talk with your counselor about how to apply ABC skills to your life and where other areas of either DBT skills or just other forms of emotional coping could be relevant. So I hope that this was a helpful introduction to these skills, and I hope that you have a great day. Thank you for listening.